Hello, families. Welcome to this virtual mini academy. My name is Gladys Galvan Carrion, Senior Manager for Parent Academy. If you can hear, please use the chat to say yes or give me use the reaction with a thumb up to see if you can hear us well. Let me see. Okay. If you are hosting a watch party, please share with us the school that you are participating tonight in this virtual mini academy. Thank you, Miss Clark. Okay. Happy to see so many families, parents, guardians, and staff, join with us tonight. And the title of our session tonight is PDIS Procedure. And for that, we have two wonderful team members of the ESC department in the OCPS, right? We have Leslie and Anna Jansi. Leslie is the educational diagnostician, and Leslie is the speech language pathology. She will share with us how we can identify, how we can start to, reach out to the people that, in the district to help us to how we can, start this process. With that being said, I will let you know that this session will be recording, right? It will be available in our YouTube channel next week. Thank you, Leslie. Thank you, Anna Yancy, for, joining tonight's session and share all this important information with our families.
Okay, Gladys, thank you so much for that introduction, and thank you parents and everyone for being here. And I hope this is, a good time for you all to get, good information. And please, throughout the presentation, if there are any questions, just jump, just join the chat and ask right away. So I'm just going to start with, who we are. Who is PDIS? We are part of, Orange County Public Schools. That we assist families who have children between the ages of 3 and 5 who either suspect or they've already been identified somehow with a communication or a developmental delay. And they're looking, for help, especially because now they're seeing, these things are impacting their learning. They've been in school, or maybe they're getting ready to start, a preschool, and there's some difficulties. So, families reach out to us. But there's also different ways that they can be referred to, and we'll go into detail in that soon. But that's pretty much the basics. If they are found eligible, we do develop an IEP. Some families may be familiar with this. This is pretty much that stands for developmental and individualized education plan. And based on the needs of the child, we develop this plan where the teacher and anyone else who would provide a service, therapists, we create goals for them to work with the child in the classroom. But again, once they're identified and they are found eligible, then we refer them to our programs. And these programs, they can vary in terms of the type of classroom. It could be a half day, a full day. And again, it's all based on the needs of the child. So those are really the basics of PDIS, but now we're just going to go into more detail. So when we think about developmental areas, these are pretty much the main areas that we're looking at. Communication, how they're understanding and expressing themselves, social and emotional, social skills, how are they interacting with peers or adults, gross and fine motor, how are they going up and down the stairs, climbing, how are they using their hands, the adaptive or self-help skills, how independent they are in their everyday, routines. Cognitive skills, that looks at how can they sit and attend to a task, and they're looking at maybe those pre-academic skills as well. And for some children who may have more medical needs, we can consider vision and hearing as part of the evaluation.
Okay, so let's look at some of the areas that we want to see children developing as neurotypical children. When we break down what we're looking at PDIS, the developmental areas are considered adaptive, communication, social emotional, motor, and cognitive. So as a parent or as a child working with young children, we want to see if those children are meeting those milestones. If you look at this slide, we have listed or bulleted some of those areas, but let's look a little more deeper into that. As we look into motor skills at the age of 2, we would like to see a kid starting to run on different terrains. We want to see a kid accessing his playground environment. We want to make sure that they can get in and out of a chair independently. When we're looking at their literacy skills, is a child being exposed to books on a regular basis? Do they understand that books are to look at pictures for enjoyment? They're starting to turn pages on their own in that area. When we're looking at cognitive skills, a lot of parents think, oh, that's learning your ABCs, your 1, 2, 3s. But when we're looking at cognitive skills, as a diagnostician, we're looking at, can this child attend and memorize? A lot of times you might see your child singing Baby Shark. That's your child learning to attend and memorize information. That is a great skill to have. You might see that your child is beginning to be inquisitive. So they might be saying they're dropping a ball a different way, or they're pushing something into a hole. They're dumping and filling objects. That's them developing that cognitive skill. We want them to be exploring their environment. We want them to be exploring new toys and seeing different ways that they work. When we look at adaptive skills, in this area, how is your child communicating their own needs? How are they advocating for themselves? A lot of times a child is starting to advocate at the age of 2 by showing discomfort in a diaper when it's soiled. They're starting to advocate because they're using words to communicate or gestures. I'm hungry, I'm thirsty, I'm uncomfortable. A lot of times they're starting to participate in their hygiene routines. How are they learning to brush their teeth, wash their hands, get dressed and undressed, take off their shoes and put on their shoes? We look at social components in these areas. At 2 years old, your child should be using toys as their intended purpose. They're not just mouthing the toys anymore. They're taking the car and rolling it down the track. They're taking 2 objects and putting it together in their social environment. So they might have a baby and a baby doll and pretending to feed that. They're using their life experiences and developing social skills through that. At this age of 2, they're really just playing alongside other children. They're observing the play of other children. They're thinking about their ideas that they're seeing, and they're beginning to imitate the play of others. So they're developing a more elaborate play scheme. When we look at their communication, they should start to be developing communication here. They should start to be putting words to objects, understanding that when a parent says, go get your shoes, they know, oh, I'm hearing shoes and go. They're putting that together receptively and following that direction. Expressively, they're saying shoes. When you're going on a walk through the neighborhood and the child, tree, bird, they're developing that communication. Those are the things that we want to see at the 2-year age. When we're looking at 3-year-olds, we're starting to build on all of those skills. So when we're looking at the motor skills, not only are they accessing the playground equipment, but they're starting to do it without holding onto the rail. They're starting to do it without the parent being right behind them. They're starting to have that spatial awareness in life. At this age, they're starting to take a crayon and scribble and experiment with different types of writing utensils. When we look at literacy, now they're not just looking at the pictures, but they're starting to pay attention to different details within the picture. So they might just see, instead of just saying horse, they might say horse, neigh, or they might say horse, farm. They're putting 2 words together when they're looking at stories. They're also learning to listen to the story. A lot of times I tell parents in this area, it's important to not just see that they're sitting and listening to the story, but they're interacting with the story. And this part of it, we want to see them, if you're reading a book, that has actions, they might want to react that character. They might want to start jumping if the animal is jumping. They might want to start pretending if you're reading the Five Little Monkeys and they're calling the doctor. They're going to pretend to call the doctor. They're adding movement and building that comprehension skill and that literacy. With cognitive skills, at the age of 3, you're starting to pay attention to the different colors, the different quantities. At 3 and it's snack time, a child might say, he got more, he got less. They're aware of that kind of number sense and building that skill. They're not necessarily identifying 1, 2, 3, but they're counting 1, 2, 3, go. Things like that in that cognitive skill. When we're looking at the adaptive skills in 3, we're looking at, are they starting to be potty trained? Are they starting to use utensils when eating? Are they starting to be aware of things that might be dangerous in their environment? If I jump from something this high, that's scary. Or if a stranger says something to me, that's scary. They're starting to slow their body down and demonstrate, I need to be fragile or gentle with this. When we're looking at social skills in the area of 3, they're starting to participate with a peer. They're not just playing alongside, but they're coming up with sharing ideas. So let's say 2 children are playing next to each other and they both have blocks, but they might be building a same tower together. They're starting to be aware that, hey, this guy's got good ideas. Let me see what he's doing and join that play. They might not have the language skills yet to build that and sustain that play experience. They're really just acting on the things that they are seeing, they're imitating, and they're experimenting with those choices. We're beginning to look at communication in the age of 3, and you're starting to combine words to really have some meaningful functional communication in this area. They're not just labeling anymore, but they're combining different types of words to build sentences. They're requesting, they're commenting, they're asking questions. They're starting to be inquisitive. What's this? Why this? Those types of things. Do you have anything to add to those communications in 2 and 3?
Yeah, just if you look at the slides, in terms of that expressive language, because I think that's one of the biggest questions we have, with families is how many words, right? How many words should they start using? And as you can see by 2, they're expected to at least, 50 to 100. And there's that big jump to 3 years old using at least 200 to 1,000 there. And there's a range for that. Each child is developing at their own pace, but that's an average of, how many words. And it's like Leslie said, it's really that functional communication, them really connecting words with their wants and needs. And just to add a little bit about speech, because, we talk a lot about language, but there is some speech development that focuses more on the sounds. So like the, what we call bilabials, like the B, the M, the P, all of those. And as you see at 3, you're not expected to be understanding everything that they're saying, but their speech does become more clear. So you should expect to at least 60 to 70% of what they're saying to be understood. And we know that at that age, they do want to say a lot, and it almost sounds like jargon, like, and then they say like 2 last words at the end. And that's still pretty typical at these ages. So actually, language-wise, it is a fun time to see them developing, because truly almost it feels like each day they're just saying a new word or doing something new.
Okay.
Question, Leslie and Anna Jansi, sorry. Because we are talking about 2 and 3 years olds, right? If they're
Yes.
not attending at school, they still can be diagnostic, getting the, a diagnostic at that age?
They can still come. Yes, they can still come to our center. They don't have to be participating necessarily at a daycare.
Okay, good to know.
Yes, and we'll go into more detail about those questions for
Perfect.
sure.
Yeah,
Right
sure.
now we're just no, that's fine, because I'll keep that in mind to go back to that. Yeah,
Yep.
but that's a good question.
So as we are getting older, we just, again, start to see those skills starting to develop more and more. At the age of 4, And again, this is things that we are looking at when you're coming in for an evaluation. Again, we look at that adaptive. That adaptive is your self-advocacy skills, your awareness of your environment, and how you present yourself in different environments. At the age of 4, we should start seeing the changes in that. By this time, you should be potty trained. You really should be able to say, you know, I gotta go, I need to go. You should be able to sit for a meal and have a full meal using utensils without making a mess and understanding the use of a napkin. At this point, you should start being aware, very aware of your environment, stranger awareness, what to do in different environments. You should understand that scissors are sharp, stoves are hot, all of those kind of safety things. When I'm at the top of the stairs, I need to slow my body down and be cautious. I need to start developing fear at this age. When we look at the social component of a 4-year-old, can they respond to personal questions? What's your name? What's your age? Do you have any siblings? Those types of things, and give an accurate response to those. Also in the social, we should start developing cooperative play. This is when we see the child start taking on the roles of adults that they've seen in their environment. This is when you see boys start to play, I'm the fireman. You see girls start to play, I'm the mommy. They might be pretending to play doctor or restaurant. They're taking their life experiences and reenacting them into play. This is an important skill because this develops your language. This allows you to storytell. And once you can storytell something within a play environment, then you can recall something. A lot of our parents say, oh, our children come to us and we ask them how their day was and they say good. Mm-hmm. That's not necessarily because they don't want to tell you about their day. It's because they don't have the language skills yet to tell them about the day. So that's where play comes into a big part of that, where they're developing that storytelling and then they can apply that to different areas of their life. Also in this area, we're starting to look at, can they regulate themselves during a rule game, a game that provides rules and guidelines. So you're starting to look at, can the child play a board game? Can the child play a social game such as hide and seek and follow the rules of hide and seek, staying in their area without the support of the adult? We want them to be able to wait turns, take turns, understand that somebody else, you can cheer on somebody else and feel good for somebody else. Also in this social component, you're starting to have awareness of feelings and emotions in yourself, as well as feelings and emotions in others. So does a child start to show sympathy? If they see that another child has dropped their backpack, do they help them pick it up? Are they aware and saying, that made me feel frustrated? Or are they still crying and having the tantrum behaviors? At the age of 4, we want them to identify their emotions and have strategies to work through them. And remember, I always remind parents at this point, all of their emotions and feelings are validated. It's how they communicate them is where we want to work on and make sure that they're at the age development that's appropriate for them. In the motor skills and 4-year-old, we're starting to look, can they write their name? Are they starting to draw a picture? A lot of times, there's a lot of research that goes to this, that every child focuses on the face. And so they start in all countries across the world, where they're making eyes, nose, and mouth, but then all of a sudden the arms start coming out of the head. Those are the things that we should start seeing at the age of 4, because those are the most important things. Those body parts, the belly doesn't do anything for them. And so it's really cool to see their child develop those fine and perceptual motor skills. As we look at literacy, this is where they're starting to take the book and pretending to tell their own story. Now they've heard the story 3 or 4 times if you've read it, but then now they're like, Mommy, I'm going to tell you the story. And then they start, and it's not the right story and the words are wrong, but they're pretending to read. They're understanding that the pictures and words are have a beginning, middle, and end. And they're developing that on their own. They're looking at the pictures, they're describing the details, and they're developing sentences. In the area of cognitive skills, this is when they're starting to recite their ABCs. This is when they're memorizing songs and recalling songs. This is when they're starting to say the colors and numbers. But those colors and numbers and letters are not just a symbol that has a word to go with it, but they have meaning. I can start to say that if I put these 6 letters together, they're gonna say Leslie. Or if I have 3 objects, there's 1, 2, 3. A lot of times in the classroom, we'll see that it's snack time and there'll be 5 kids at the snack table and the child's starting to understand that one-to-one correspondence. If I have 5 friends, then I need 5 napkins to hand out to the friend, and they're developing that skill. They're applying those skills to real life experiences. When we're looking at communication, again, this is when they're developing that social language. This is when they're really starting to not just say a sentence, but it's a complex sentence. It might have an adjective or an adverb to it. That was a really big truck, or I was super excited. So they're not just saying I'm excited or I'm happy, but I'm super happy. And if you can think about a 4-year-old, they're dramatic and their words are bigger when they're excited, and their feelings are larger. And that's when they're starting to use that language and to help you understand the way they're feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I'll add yes. Yes, because as you can see, when you know, at the ages of 2 and 3, we said functional communication. They're just getting pretty much their needs met. Now they know words have power by the ages of 4 and 5. So that's why you start seeing more detail in what they're saying. I want the big cookie instead of just saying cookie, so you start to see that, and then you're not guessing as much what they're thinking and what they're feeling, like maybe you were at the age of 2 or 3. They're saying more and more clearly. They're getting their message across pretty much. That's really what you start seeing at this age. And then in terms of the speech, again, those sounds, that articulation, you should be understanding most of what they're saying. Familiar people and unfamiliar people. So that's still related, to that area of communication. Maybe they have the language, but when they start saying words, you still don't understand what they're saying. And, you start seeing certain behaviors related to that. Maybe they're, becoming more shy or more hesitant. So for sure at this age, you should be understanding most of what they're saying.
Okay, and as we look at 5-year-olds, I hope some of you are seeing the progression of skills as we went from 2, 3, 4, and now we're into 5. As you think about a 5-year-old, again, if I start thinking about the adaptive skills, now they're starting to participate in helping in the kitchen. They're starting to identify that if I'm in danger, what do I do? So not just saying I'm recognizing a danger, you're reacting to it appropriately. They're starting to say, oh, if a house is on fire, I call 911. If a stranger talks to me, I run and go tell my mom. And they should be pretty independent now in terms of dressing and undressing, brushing their teeth, taking care of all those hygiene routines should be mastered by this point. In the area of social skills, they're playing much more elaborate games. I'd like to think of this as now they don't just have 1 or 2 peers, there might be 5 or 6 peers, and they're playing a larger game. They're accepting the ideas of others, they're sharing ideas with somebody else, and they're coming up with a much more imaginative skill. They're starting to use symbolic play. So if they're out on the playground and they don't have any toys, they're using different types of things as their toys. This is when you start seeing a kid say that the playground equipment is a castle and a stick is his sword. They're using that symbolic imaginative play in this area. And academic skills, this is where they're starting to apply their knowledge. This really goes into VPK standard type things that we should see, kindergarten readiness skills at 5 years. In the area of communication, I think I'm at communication, literacy. Let me go back to literacy. This is wonderful to see because this is when you start building those comprehension. Are they able to answer those WH questions? Mm-hmm. Can they say, who was in that story we read? Why we start inferencing? Why do you think they were doing this? What do you think they'll do next? And it's so fun to see how the kids mentally interpret the stories differently than we do as adults. But they really should start building those WH questions. In the area of math, not only are they counting 1 to 10, but they're starting, if you say, well, that was 4, how many more do I have? They're starting to count on from a different number, not just having to count one, not just 1 to 10, but maybe they're counting to 40. They're starting to recognize a calendar if they're in the VPK centers. In the area of communication, you should start seeing them use different types of forms in terms of tense. So they might say, I washed my hand, I'm going swimming. And they're adding those endings to the word to make it more understandable to the listener. They're starting to have dialogue. So not only are they telling you about something, let's say we're talking about a birthday party. Oh, I'm having a birthday party and it's going to be a Baby Shark birthday party. And they might say, what are you doing for your birthday? They're taking the information that their communication partner is talking about and responding to the information they're receiving. And that's what we should start seeing at 5. They're really having more complex dialogue.
No, I think you actually said that perfectly. I think again, biggest difference between that 2 and 3 and 4 and 5, you just really start seeing them putting more ideas together, not just what I want, what I need, just ideas and more that social language that we were saying.
Okay, so now let's look at why would you think you might need to come to PDIS for an evaluation? A lot of us look at this at PDIS, we're looking at all those different areas of development, and they're listed right here on this slide. We call them red flags. So look at when you're thinking about self-help, or that's that adaptive skill that we've been talking about. Is your child potty trained? Is your child communicating? And communicating doesn't have to be words, but are they indicating to you that they need something and something is wrong? I'm hungry, I'm thirsty. A lot of times the red flags is they're protesting a lot in this area. I don't want to follow the direction. I don't want to change. I don't want to wear this. I don't want to go outside. I don't want to sit for a meal. The self-help area, really, we start to see the protesting. When we're looking at social skills and the red flags that we might see in social skills, are they isolating themselves? Are they avoiding social contact? Do they get upset when we try and push them in to a peer group that's already ongoing? In this area, we might start to see some outward aggression. So this person has my toy. I don't have the language skills to say, I want to share with you. And then we're starting to see aggression and social skills. We're also starting to see a red flag in this area why you might want to come to PDIS is the child is tantruming and you can't get them back in control within a reasonable amount of time. And their tantrums escalate. And you're having a very difficult time redirecting the child or allowing the child to resolve this in an age appropriate manner. So are they regulating their emotions? So in this area, you're looking at, can they follow direction and listen to an adult? Are they engaging in peer interaction? And how are they regulating their emotions? When we look at motor skills, a lot of times at PDIS, the children that we see with motor skills have an underlying diagnosis already. So let's say the child might have cerebral palsy and those motor skills are affecting them. Are they able to walk up and down stairs? Are they able to access a learning environment? And that would be a red flag for why you might want to bring them to PDIS. When we look at the cognitive, this is the learning. Is your child maintaining information? If you teach them something, do they remember it? Are they able to say, if I hide this object, I can keep my attention and find that object? They should start, if they're older, are they starting to learn the pre-academic skills that we would expect? Letters, numbers, colors, and shapes. Are you able to keep your child attentive to an activity for 2 to 4 minutes on the younger side, 3 to 5 on the older side? Or is it really difficult and you're requiring a lot of what we call intrusion to keep your child engaged in a learning activity? And that could just be a simple puzzle, a simple story being read. All those things are red flags for why we would like to have you consider an evaluation at PDIS.
And then in terms of communication, difficulty understanding that spoken language when you're telling your child, go get your shoes, and they're still either staring at you or not even, looking at you, and you have to repeat it over and over again, just as a simple command like that. Is it because they're not attending, or is there something more happening? Like, are they really just not understanding what I'm saying to them? And then, like we were saying, expressing, the expressive language. How many words are they using to let you know what they want or what they need? As you saw by 2 and 3, there's a lot of words they should be using. So if they're only, saying less than 10, less than 20, truly less than 50.
Or do they even have a functional mode of communication at that
Exactly.
point?
You want to monitor that and, kind of start asking, like, should I get my child evaluated? And I think overall, if you see all these areas, we're looking at how are these impacting, their future in their academics journey, really. And so that's really our focus. How are these areas affecting that part in their lives?
And it's important to remember at PDIS, where we don't do medical diagnosis, we really focus on the educational side of looking at what programs in an academic or instructional educational environment. And another area that we might want to look at if you're seeing a red flag is if your daycare or your child, whoever is providing them or spending most of the time during the day with them, are seeing major concerns in that area where they're not staying equal to their peers.
Mm-hmm.
And
that kind of goes into that next area. That's just perfect in terms of just other reasons besides those areas of development. And like we mentioned, maybe they already have a medical diagnosis that could be, autism, ADHD, anything more like physical, like cerebral palsy. That that already those areas of development have been impacted, and you can be referred to us, like Leslie was saying, in terms of the daycares. They've been in daycare for even a month or more, and the teachers are already seeing certain things, that the behavior, something is just not letting them really interact and learn the way you would expect them to be at that age. For many families, and I think this kind of goes with the question you mentioned earlier in terms of, do they have to be in a daycare or not? And no, but a lot of our families that have children under 3 or they're close to 3 are transitioning from a program called Early Steps, which is pretty much early intervention for any child from 0 to 3 that, again, are suspecting any, concerns, and the service is at home. But once they turn 3, that service ends, and so that transition is to us. So a lot of families automatically come to us. That's just how we collaborate with Early Steps, and we do that initial evaluation to see if they still benefit from early intervention, but now more in the classroom setting. And then for many families, it's just been also they've been going to the pediatrician, other specialists that they've been monitoring their child, and they say, what, let's look at this area now. They're 3 and they're not, meeting certain milestones. Let's refer you to PDIS.
Wonderful. I think I think you have more to share, but this list give, to the parents a lot of the characteristics they can, check. If, if they are seeing this, they should be maybe, consider, right?
Yes.
Have their kids evaluated. This is really, I think, very detailed.
Absolutely. Thank you. And actually this, we wanted to go into detail about those milestones and the red flags, because I think that's where parents kind of start thinking, should I go? Should I not? So at this point, I don't know if we want to just let anyone
If you
see
have
if there
questions,
if you have
yes.
any questions about anything we've shared so far.
If you have questions, you can drop those in the chat, and you can help, Leslie and Jancy to answer some of those questions.
Yep, because the next
Before
part
we
is just kind
continue.
of going back to just procedures and, steps.
The next part of the presentation is going to go with, if you are interested in an evaluation, what steps do you need to take to get that evaluation done
Sure.
or to make an appointment with us?
I don't see any questions. I don't see any questions so far because they haven't, so detailed in information. Okay, we have one question. They said, what if my child is in ABA and they say I can wait until my child is 5, I guess.
Go for it. Okay.
And I'll add it.
We love that your child is in ABA, and those therapies are extremely important. If your child, you can go ahead with the evaluation. If your child's eligible, we will go ahead and write that IEP. And when your child is ready for kindergarten, you can go ahead and present that when you register them. But if your child's in ABA, you could benefit from both services. You could have the ABA services as well as, if they're eligible, the classroom services. So that's something to really consider, what your child needs to do to get ready for that kindergarten year.
Yeah, I think there's a misunderstanding that they can't participate in a private service and also and also us. They can still get evaluated, do the whole procedure. And, we know there's a lot of logistics that comes to, for families in terms of where they want their child to receive services, but at least you've been evaluated, you've been identified with the needs, if there are needs, and then you can make a decision later on, should I continue with ABA or should I wait?
This slide that we're showing right now, I'm just going to jump into this.
Go for it.
And Josephine, we're going to go right into how you can proceed with an evaluation next. These are some of the professionals that we have at PDIS that are going to help evaluate your child based on what the parent responds with needs. And then, since parents seem to be interested in how to get an evaluation.
Yeah, so these are the 3 main requirements, really. So you have to have, you have to be 3 years old to 5 years old, to, be considered for an initial evaluation. You currently have to be residing in Orange County, who is not currently enrolled in an OCPS educational program. So that could be a VPK. And when we say VPK, it's especially a VPK that's already in an Orange County public school program.
They have to be in one of our OCPS schools, elementary school, that offer VPK.
Right. So if they're registered in a VPK in an Orange County public school, if there's a concern, they would have to address it there already, not through us.
Okay. So basically private VPKs would want to come through us. I'm looking at the next question. If my child is 3 now, should I wait till they're kindergarten? If any of the parents out there, any of your children ages 3, 4, or 5, and you have concerns, come to us immediately, because early intervention is key for preparation for kindergarten. So we have classrooms that have mixed kids from 3 to 5. We have classrooms that are 3, 4. It all just depends on where your child's needs are and what they qualify for. All of our classrooms, I see a question about, do you have any inclusive classrooms? Orange County Public Schools, our department is primarily and strictly for students with special needs. And we're looking at services within those classrooms. Once they enter the kindergarten, then they would look at inclusion or mainstreaming those children.
I have 2 more questions here that I see. If they are already registered with OCPS, do they qualify? I guess the answer is yes, right?
They can be registered for Orange County Public Schools. If they are not enrolled, they would come to PDIS. If they are enrolled and actively attending a OCPS school, then they need to go and talk to that school's staffing specialist. And every school in Orange County Public Schools has a staffing specialist that they can look at and say, hey, I'd like to get my kid evaluated.
I think if a student is enrolled in a VPK program, how do I qualify? I think they have to go to your office. They have to go to your office, right?
Right. So if it's a VPK program through like a daycare, a church, anything more, privately, they can still come to us. as long as they're under 5. Yeah, they can come in and get an intake.
And I think the other question is, and that you're going to continue, is like how I proceed with the evaluation. I see that you're going to explain right now, right?
There we go.
Here we are.
Right into that side.
So yes, how to schedule an evaluation. You reach out. Let me just move this one really quick. You just contact our office, which at the end of the presentation will have that contact information. You request an intake. You can come in person to our office to get it. We can mail it to you, and also we can actually send it by email as well. Once you complete it, you send it back, and then that's when we start reviewing it, and then they set an appointment with you as well. Make sure in the intake packet, when you send it back, you have these documents: the birth certificate, a proof of residence, and in certain situations, a proof of legal guardianship.
I had a couple of, I saw it there, rolling hills and things like that. If you guys have any questions, feel free to email Anna or I at the end of this. You'll see our emails, and we can help you. If you are in a OTPS VPK, we can help you get connected with the staffing specialist at your school, because we really do want these kiddos to get services as soon as if they're eligible. So anybody who just even has those little questions is, who's my staffing specialist, or what do I do next? I'm already enrolled in VPK. Just feel free to send us an email.
Any questions about these first 3 steps on how to schedule an evaluation?
I think we don't have a question about that.
So, let's say you get an appointment, there's some time in between, the moment you get the appointment and the evaluation. So these are just some resources that, we've put together on, just some suggestions that you can be doing and working on, with your child in the meantime. Or again, you have that little question, let me just see how I can monitor this between now and then. These are good ways to track that.
So if you go to the milestone tracker, which is on CDC, that's going to give you an age, and even breaks it down into smaller quantities where your child should be. And then if you're seeing delays in more than one area, that's when you're going to really want to seek out an evaluation.
Mm-hmm.
The free children's book that has online literacy. I know a lot of parents are like, I read the same book over and over again. Well, this has a plethora of books for your child to read. The video resources on the CDC, that's where you're going to see the CDC use strategies and implement strategies. And they're actually videos of children where people are implementing those strategies. Here, the library in Orange County has not just books, but events, classes. If you're sitting at home and you're like, my child doesn't have any peers and we don't have play dates and it's just me and his siblings and me and the family, the library system has where you could go to a read aloud and join that, and their child's getting exposed to not just how do I sit and read, but how do other children sit and read. If you've already been diagnosed with a disability, UCF has CARD has a great resources for accessing things in the community that might be difficult for you and your child. A lot of sensory type things.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I just dropped all those links in the chat for the families to get access to, for easy access to those and have those available.
Yeah, one thing I did want to add that I believe we didn't mention in terms of, when you're thinking about applying and you have, you speak English as a second language, don't let that stop you. We do have interpreters that we can provide for the evaluation. We have Spanish bilingual teams as well that, are part of our department. So just in the intake, just mention that, what languages are spoken at home, what's the exposure, and we'll do our best, to provide those interpreters for that evaluation. Any other questions?
I think we have one other question. It said, what what will be the main indicator a parent sees to let them to get their child needs some help?
Anytime a
Yeah.
parent is seeing a red flag, it doesn't hurt to what happens when you come into the evaluation, if you don't have a medical diagnosis, is we're going to screen the child. We're going to screen the child in language, and then we're going to screen them in their development. If we see any kind of deficit in either of those, the 5 areas of development or language, we're going to do a full evaluation. So just coming in for that screener, it doesn't hurt.
Mhm.
If you are concerned, make the appointment, do it early, do it now so that we can catch it and we can start that early intervention. That is so key to helping your child build skills to the neurotypical children.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I think, sometimes, we don't know in the moment, right? So if you like, I would say based on what families have mentioned, I think one of the biggest things that they notice firsthand is their language. They're 3 and they're just still not talking. There's a lot of behaviors, they're getting easily frustrated. And that I would say, and that's why, like Leslie was saying, we screen, and a big part of that screener is the language. So I would say that if you had to think of one thing, I would think, where is their communication? Where's their language skills? How is that impacting those other areas of development, the social, their day-to-day routines? So yeah, I hope that answered the question too.
Yeah.
And Cynthia, I'm seeing your question in the chat box. If you look at this slide here, you can contact PDIS directly. You have Anna and I's information on here, as well as our senior administrative information.
Yeah, please take a picture. You have Leslie and Anna emails. You can email them. You have the phone number of the PDIS office to schedule your appointment. And I think one more question about summer. They say, can I get into a PDIS for evaluation now that we can, go over the summer? I think they say yes, you can go and they will, that will be help to enroll your kid for the next year, if they qualify for the services that are we, just set and start the new school year with, the service that maybe your child, your student qualify, right?
Yes, I would say you can start the process now for sure. We are in high demand right now, so I honestly don't know where the wait is in terms of actually getting the appointment, but again, don't let that stop you. The key here is just start the process,
Yeah.
and just go from there.
I
And while
think as
you're
soon as
waiting,
better, right?
The
Yep.
sooner the better.
sooner the better.
Yes.
And while you're waiting, look at those websites. There's a lot of resources on those websites to help you start working on some things while you're waiting for your appointment.
No, I think this was a great, a great session, a wonderful, lots of information. I hope, everybody that attend gets something, as I hope that we have a team, ready for you as soon as better. I would like to drop in the chat, our OCPS YouTube link for to join for, if you want to review this video later, review all the information. And also I would like to share with you guys, next Saturday, March 8th, we have our ESC transition fair. That will be at Colonial High School. I will drop the link for registration. Also, I'm gonna share if the screen for you guys to take a picture. Let me share the picture with the families. Let me know if you can see my screen with the flyer. You can see the flyer for the ESC transition fair.
Yes.
Okay, please take a picture, use the QR code if you wanna attend to the session. Will be 9 to 12 at Colonial High School. I will wait for a second for you guys to, use the QR code or take a picture of the flyer. Thank you, Ana Yancy. Thank you, Leslie. This was wonderful. I think, everybody, we have answered all the questions possible here. And let me just drop the link for the YouTube channel for the family. They will be have, this video available next week.
Yes,
Okay.
and thank you again for participating, and thank you for the invitation.
Yes.
We are, happy to having you here because this is our second time with you guys in the
Yeah.
Northern Land and now here. Let me just drop the YouTube link for everybody to use the link to please subscribe, share, and see all the resources that we have here. Now, thank you, everybody. I hope everybody have a wonderful night. Bye. See you. Thank
Bye.
you, Anna. Thank you, Leslie. Bye, families.